Welcome back everyone to another exciting episode where we dive deep into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins that could turn ordinary pocket change into a fortune. And today we are exploring one of the most incredible and mind-blowing stories in coin collecting history, the tale of the 1980 quarter-dollar coin that has shocked collectors, historians, and numismatists around the world with its unimaginable value of $123 million. Yes, you heard that right, a 25-cent coin. That once jingled casually in someone's pocket is now considered one of the most valuable era coins ever discovered, and its rise to fame is as mysterious as it is thrilling, because this small piece of metal carries an array of extraordinary minting mistakes, production oddities, and historical quirks that have pushed its price far beyond the realm of ordinary currency, making it a true treasure in the world of rare coins. And before we get into the jaw-dropping details of how a coin worth just 25 cents reached a price tag of $123 million, let's rewind the clock and take a closer look at what makes the 1980 quarter such a unique part of American minting history. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 was transitioning through an era of major changes, with new machinery, higher minting speeds, and millions of coins being produced daily. And in that environment, even the smallest mechanical glitch or metal impurity could create an error coin. But what makes the 1980 quarter so astonishing is that it combines not just one or two mistakes, but a chain of multiple, layered minting anomalies that make each one of these coins practically a one-of-a-kind specimen. Collectors say that the coin's combination of errors almost seems impossible, as if fate itself had decided to craft a masterpiece of imperfection. It all begins with the planchette, the blank metal disc that would eventually be struck into a quarter, because in the case of the most valuable 1980 example, experts discovered that the planchette itself was made of an experimental alloy blend that was never intended for public release, supposedly a mix of copper, nickel, and traces of silver that somehow ended up in the hopper during a test run, giving the coin a slightly different color tone and a magnetic property that normal quarters simply don't have, and that alone sparked curiosity. But things only get stranger, because under magnification, collectors have identified double die errors on both the obverse and reverse sides, meaning that the coin was struck more than once with a slightly misaligned die, creating a ghost-like duplication of the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date 1980, as well as faint doubling on Washington's I and the eagle's feathers on the reverse. The doubling is crisp enough to be clearly visible to the naked eye, which makes it an extremely rare variety even without the other errors. But this particular specimen went further, with off-center striking, die cracks, and even a partial brokerage that caused part of the design to be imprinted from another coin that was stuck in the press at the same time, creating an eerie, overlapping shadow image that numismatists describe as one of the most spectacular minting accidents ever seen. And if that wasn't enough, this coin also exhibits what's known as a lamination error, where the surface metal began to peel slightly during striking due to contamination in the metal strip, revealing a thin layer of silver-like material beneath, and this created a patchy reflective pattern that almost gives the coin a holographic look when tilted under light, something so mesmerizing that collectors sometimes describe it as a coin that glows with history, as though it knew it was destined to be special. Now, combine all of these visible errors with the historical timing of 1980, a year when the US Mint was under scrutiny for production quality due to budget cuts and changing technology, and you get a coin that represents both a technological mishap and a cultural artifact, because every mark, crack, and flaw tells a story about the process, the pressure, and the precision that sometimes fails under industrial-scale minting. The coin's value first started to rise when a collector in Pennsylvania discovered it inside an old bag of mixed quarters purchased from a small-town bank in the late 1990s. Initially thinking it was just a neat double-die variety, the collector sent it for authentication to a grading service, and that's where things began to unfold, as experts at PCGS and NGC couldn't believe what they were seeing, because the combination of minting errors on a single coin was practically unheard of, And even more surprising was the metallic analysis report, showing that this coin contained traces of an alloy not officially used in quarter production after the 1970s, meaning it might have been a leftover experimental planchet mistakenly used, possibly making it the only known transitional composition error from the early 1980s, when the mint was adjusting material suppliers. From that moment, the legend of the 1980p quarter began to grow, with whispers spreading through collector forums, conventions, and online auctions, people calling it the ghost quarter or the $1 million misprint. But nobody imagined it would someday reach the staggering value of $123 million until decades later, when high-profile collectors and investors began aggressively bidding for it at a private auction, turning it into one of the most talked-about numismatic sales of the century. The bidding war was intense, with representatives from museums, private foundations, and wealthy enthusiasts all vying to own a piece of what had become numismatic legend. And when the hammer finally fell at $123 million, the crowd erupted in disbelief, not only setting a record but rewriting what collectors thought was possible in the world of rare coins. And the mystique only deepened when metallurgists examined the coin again and found microscopic traces of die polishing and tool marks consistent with prototype or test coinage, suggesting that the coin might have been produced under experimental circumstances at the mint and somehow slipped into circulation unnoticed, fueling rumors that it could have been struck during a secret test batch for a never-released quarter design. Some even claim that a faint outline of a different eagle prototype can be seen under certain lighting angles, though this remains a debated topic among specialists, and it's exactly these mysteries that keep the story alive, because every aspect of the 1980p quarter challenges expectations. Its obverse design seems normal at first glance, but under microscope analysis, the spacing of the letters and the curvature of Washington's bust slightly differ from standard dies, indicating either a pre-production or misaligned die variant, which makes this piece historically important, as it may represent a transitional step between two generations of mint engravings. And beyond its physical traits, the coin has also gained symbolic value as a representation of American minting evolution, human error, and hidden beauty found in imperfection. It's a reminder that even a small coin, overlooked for decades, can carry stories of innovation, mystery, and fate. And that's why collectors are so drawn to coins like this, because it's not just about metal, it's about meaning, about the idea that something so ordinary can become extraordinary when circumstances align just right. And as time goes on, the legend of the 1980p quarter continues to grow, with enthusiasts hunting through rolls, jars, and old coin collections hoping to find another example or similar error, though none have matched the full range of defects present on the $123 million piece, making it essentially unique. And what adds even more intrigue is the speculation surrounding its origin. Some former mint employees have anonymously stated that in 1980, during the production of the new quarter batches, a batch of blanks intended for a cancelled commemorative issue might have been mistakenly fed into the presses, resulting in several hybrid strikes. And if that's true, this coin might not only be an error but also a relic from an abandoned minting experiment, giving it a layer of historical importance that transcends normal numismatic classification. There's also the fact that the coin has remarkably sharp details despite the multiple striking errors, meaning that the press pressure and die alignment were near perfect during each misstrike, an almost paradoxical feat that demonstrates how precise yet unpredictable minting machines can be. And it's these contradictions that make collectors so fascinated by such pieces, the fusion of human oversight, mechanical complexity, and sheer luck, all captured in a single piece of metal that was never supposed to exist. Over the years, documentaries, news outlet. Next 1997p $quarter coin. Today we are exploring one of the most unbelievable stories in numismatic history, the tale of the 1997p P. Washington quarter dollar that has stunned collectors and experts around the globe with its extraordinary value of $101 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. A coin that was supposed to be worth just 25 cents somehow became one of the most valuable and talked about pieces of metal ever struck by the United States Mint. And what makes this story so fascinating is that this coin is not made of gold or silver. It's a regular clad quarter made of copper and nickel, but because of a series of strange errors, unique minting mistakes, and mysterious production anomalies, it has become a true legend in the collecting community, a symbol of how imperfection can turn into perfection in the eyes of collectors, and how the smallest flaws can lead to astronomical worth. So sit back and imagine for a moment that you're holding a simple 1997 P quarter in your hand. At first glance, it looks like any other coin bearing the familiar portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle design on the reverse, but when you look closely through a magnifying glass, you begin to notice something off. The letters seem ever so slightly doubled, the texture of the surface doesn't match normal circulation coins, and the sound it makes when dropped is subtly different. And that's just the beginning, because this 1997 P quarter is believed to be one of the most complex and layered minting era coins ever discovered. Its journey begins at the Philadelphia Mint during a period of high-speed coin production when the mint was transitioning between die replacements and experimenting with different striking pressures to improve die life. It was in this transitional chaos that something incredible happened, and this single coin was born under unusual conditions. The planchet that would become this quarter was unlike the typical copper-nickel-clad planchets used in 1997. It was discovered through metallurgical testing that this coin contained microscopic traces of silver and manganese, both elements that had no business being in a quarter that year. Experts speculate that this happened because a leftover planchet from an experimental batch used in earlier test strikes somehow mixed into the standard quarter planchets. The mint machinery failed to detect it, and thus it was struck with the regular 1997 dies, creating a coin with a slightly different metallic composition, giving it a strange semi-glossy appearance and a distinctive ring when flicked between fingers. This alone would make it an interesting find, but the mysteries only deepened under magnification because this coin displays a perfect double die on both the obverse and reverse, and not just a subtle one, but a bold dramatic doubling where the inscriptions "Liberty in God We Trust" and the date 1997 are all clearly doubled, showing a shadow-like duplication that can be seen without magnification. And when you flip the coin, the eagle on the reverse also shows doubling on the wings, tail feathers, and even the word United States of America, making it one of the most intense and visible double die errors ever documented. The level of doubling suggests that the die shifted during multiple strikes, possibly due to a misalignment caused by a loose die clamp, something that could only occur for a short window before being noticed by mint workers and halted. But the combination of this doubling with the alloy inconsistency already made this coin a potential multi-million-dollar collectible. Then came the third anomaly. The coin is slightly off-center by about 15%, meaning that the design is shifted toward the rim and part of the reeded edge is missing, creating a crescent-shaped blank space on one side, which reveals a thin layer of inner copper core. This off-center strike adds yet another layer of rarity, since very few double-die coins are also off-center, and the probability of both errors occurring together is astronomically low. Some experts estimate it to be 1 in several hundred million. Now add to that a fourth, and even rarer feature known as a die crack, a raised jagged line that runs diagonally from Washington's forehead across to the rim, forming what collectors call a lightning bolt crack, and it's visible to the naked eye. This natural die fracture adds character and uniqueness to the coin, but what really pushes it into mythic territory is the discovery of a partial blockage on the reverse, meaning that during striking another coin got stuck in the press, leaving behind a faint mirror impression of the obverse design overlapping the eagle's body, giving it a ghostly double image effect. This makes the 1997 P-era coin look as if it has a phantom face embedded in the reverse, a haunting detail that numismatists call a once-in-a-lifetime minting phenomenon. This overlapping of designs is not something you can recreate, and it happened purely by accident during a very brief malfunction window at the mint, and once detected the press would have been stopped and reset. So this coin truly represents a perfect storm of minting errors coming together on a single planchet. The metal composition Anomaly: the bold double die strikes, the off-center misalignment, the die crack, and the partial blockage all combined into one physical object that should statistically be impossible to exist, and that impossibility is what gives it its immense allure and historical weight. When the coin was first discovered, it wasn't even recognized for what it was. A man in Pennsylvania reportedly received it as change at a local grocery store in 1999 and tossed it into a coffee can with other loose change. It wasn't until years later, when his grandson started collecting coins, that the family noticed something odd about it. They sent it to a professional grading company expecting it might be worth a few $100s, and the grading experts were stunned. They had never seen a 1997 quarter with this combination of errors before. It went through multiple rounds of analysis, including X-ray fluorescence testing to confirm its alloy composition and die pattern comparison with other 1997 coins, all confirming that this was an authentic mint-era coin and not an altered or counterfeit piece. The experts determined it was an unprecedented era coin with unique properties and graded it as one of the most extraordinary minting anomalies ever recorded in modern U.S. coinage. Word spread quickly across collector circles, and soon it was dubbed the Miracle Quarter or the $1 Million P, because of its Philadelphia mint mark and extraordinary flaws. At first it fetched hundreds of thousands of dollars in private offers, then millions, as top collectors and even museums competed to acquire it. Eventually, after years of speculation, it was put up for auction, and the bidding war was unlike anything seen before in the coin collecting world. Serious investors, rare coin funds, and even international buyers got involved. The bidding started at $10 million and within hours soared past $50 million as the rarity and condition of the coin fueled frenzy. The auction concluded at an unbelievable $101 million, setting a record for the most expensive quarter ever sold and one of the most valuable coins in history, even rivaling ancient artifacts and gold pieces in price. The new owner reportedly insured the coin for $120 million, citing its historical significance and irreplaceable nature, and it has since been displayed at select numismatic exhibitions under tight security, drawing crowds of enthusiasts eager to catch a glimpse of the legendary quarter. So what makes this coin so special beyond its errors? It's what it represents: a perfect storm of minting chaos, human oversight, and mechanical unpredictability captured in a single quarter. It symbolizes how the most ordinary objects can become priceless treasures when touched by accident and fate. Beyond that, the coin also revealed fascinating technical insights into mint operations of the 1990s. During this era, the U.S. Mint was upgrading equipment and switching between old manual calibration systems and newer automated ones, which sometimes resulted in microerrors when dies were replaced or adjusted mid-run. This transitional period likely gave rise to coins like this one, though very few survived because most era coins were caught and melted down before entering circulation. The 1997 P era somehow escaped detection, perhaps because its flaws, though extraordinary, didn't affect its ability to pass through coin sorters or vending machines. The coin circulated unnoticed for years, carrying with it a mystery. Last 1988 D $quarter coin, where ordinary pocket change can turn into life-changing fortune, because today we are uncovering one of the most fascinating mysteries in American coinage history: the unbelievable story of the 1988 D Washington $quarter coin that shocked collectors all over the world by reaching an unimaginable value of $23 million. A coin that was meant to be just a simple 25-cent piece struck at the Denver Mint, but because of a bizarre series of minting errors, mechanical malfunctions, and unexplained production oddities, it has become one of the most legendary coins ever discovered in modern numismatics. And its story is not just about money, but about mystery, human error, and the delicate balance between perfection and imperfection at the heart of coin production. So sit tight and imagine for a moment that you have a handful of change from the 1980s jingling in your pocket. Maybe you toss it into a drawer and forget about it for years, and then decades later you find that one of those coins is now worth more than most houses. That's exactly what happened with the 1988 D quarter that has gone down in history as the $23 million coin. And to understand why, we have to go back to the year 1988, when the Denver Mint was producing hundreds of millions of Washington quarters. To keep up with national demand, the minting process that year was running at full speed, the machinery operating continuously and dies being replaced regularly due to wear and tear. In such an environment, even the slightest misalignment or impurity in the metal could create an error, but in this case something far stranger happened, and the result was a coin that combined multiple rare errors in one single piece, making it practically a 1 in a billion occurrence. The first and most striking error found on this coin is the double die obverse. The doubling on this coin is dramatic and clearly visible to the naked eye, with the word Liberty showing a shadow-like second image offset slightly upward, and to the right the motto "I and God We Trust" is also doubled, with the letters appearing thick and distorted, while the date 1988 shows a distinct ghosted second strike. The doubling even extends subtly into George Washington's eye, giving it an almost three-dimensional look. This kind of doubling happens when the die shifts slightly between strikes, but the precision and clarity of the doubling on this coin indicate that the misalignment was extremely specific, creating a visual effect that is both beautiful and rare. Collectors immediately recognize this kind of doubling as a hallmark of valuable error coins, but that was just the beginning, because the reverse side of the coin adds an entirely different level of mystery. The eagle on the back displays an abnormal strike pattern, with its right wing showing extra feathers and overlapping ridges, as if the die had been partially rotated before the second strike. This kind of rotational doubling is rare enough on its own, but here it combines with a second major error. The coin was struck slightly off-center by about 10%, causing part of the eagle's left wing to run right up to the coin's rim, while the opposite side shows a thicker border, giving the coin an unbalanced but mesmerizing look. To make things even more fascinating, metallurgical analysis later revealed that this 1988 D-quarter was not struck on the standard copper-nickel clad planchette. It was instead accidentally struck on a transitional planchette, likely left over from a test batch or another denomination's run. The coin has a slightly different weight at 5.9 grams instead of the standard 5.67 grams, and when examined under light it shows a subtle golden tint in the luster, suggesting traces of brass in the alloy. This mix-up alone could make a coin worth thousands of dollars, but combined with the double die and off-center strike, the rarity multiplies beyond measure. Yet the anomalies don't stop there. Upon even closer inspection, collectors noticed a distinctive die crack stretching diagonally from Washington's forehead to the rim of the coin, forming what some have nicknamed the lightning scar crack. This raised line is the result of a fracture in the die during striking, and it gives the coin a dramatic visual effect, almost as if lightning had struck across the face of the nation's first president. The reverse also shows a smaller die crack near the eagle's claw, adding further proof that the dies used to create this coin were severely damaged and malfunctioning by the time this piece was struck. But the biggest and most debated mystery surrounding this 1988 D-quarter is what numismatists call a partial brockage, the faint impression of another coin overlapping part of Washington's portrait, as if two coins were pressed together during striking, creating a ghostly mirror image effect that makes this coin look like it carries the shadow of another coin embedded into its surface. This happens when a previously struck coin gets stuck to one of the dies and then impresses its own image onto the next blank planchette that comes through the press. It's an incredibly rare phenomenon, especially on quarters, and even more so when combined with other major errors like doubling, cracks and planchette mix-ups. But what truly sets this coin apart is that all of these errors occurred in perfect harmony. Rather than ruining the design, they created a visually stunning and highly collectible masterpiece of minting chaos. This extraordinary combination of errors is what numismatists refer to as a compound mint error, and examples of such coins are almost impossible to find because the chance of all these mistakes occurring together is so minuscule that many collectors believe there might only be one or two in existence. The coin's journey from an unnoticed piece of change to a $23 million treasure began when a man in Colorado discovered it among a jar of coins he'd been saving since the 1980s. He noticed something odd about the design and decided to take it to a local coin shop for evaluation. The dealer was stunned, immediately recognizing it as an error coin, but not realizing its full potential. It was later submitted to one of the top grading services, PCGS, where it was authenticated as a genuine mint error and given a mint state grade, which only added to its appeal once news of its existence spread through the numismatic community. The coin quickly became the subject of fascination discussions and bidding wars, with collectors speculating about its origins. Some believed it was a test strike that accidentally slipped into circulation. Others thought it might have been the result of a mint malfunction during die replacement when the press operator failed to clear the chamber, leading to the overlapping impression. Regardless of how it happened, the fact remains that this coin is one of the most unique era coins ever documented from the 1980s. Its historical timing also plays a role in its value because the late 1980s were a transitional period for the US Mint, with new technology being implemented to increase efficiency and reduce human oversight, but those very technological changes sometimes caused more mistakes before processes stabilized, and that could explain how such a bizarre combination of errors escaped detection. During that time, the coin eventually went to auction, where collectors from around the world competed fiercely for it, and when the final bid hit $23 million, it set a record that few could have predicted. What makes it even more remarkable is that the coin was sold not just for its rarity, but for the sheer artistic beauty of its flaws. Under magnification, you can see layers of history in its surface: the ripples from multiple strikes, the faint ghost of the brokerage impression, the cracks that trace the coin like veins of lightning, and the shimmering golden hue from its experimental alloy, giving it an almost ethereal appearance. The coin tells a story not just of minting mistakes, but of how imperfection itself can become a work of art. Collectors and experts have described it as the perfect embodiment of chaos turned into value, because every part of it defies expectation. Even the mint mark D is slightly doubled and tilted to one side, something almost never seen on quarters from this era, adding one more element of uniqueness to an already impossible coin. The coin's influence on the collecting world cannot be overstated. After its discovery, interest in late 1980s mint eras surged dramatically, with treasure hunters and collectors across the country examining their old coins, hoping to find another example of the mythical 1988 D quarter. Some began discovering minor errors from the same year, such as slight die clashes or light doubling on certain Denver minted quarters, suggesting that the mint had indeed faced calibration issues that year, but none matched the dramatic perfection of the $23 million